I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. But I do know that the first time I record usually is the best take. So I'm just going to be as present in the moment as I possibly can be and continue doing this thing that really stresses me out and makes me feel really nervous. I want to start these daily-ish confessionals by just checking in with how I feel. I'm going to introduce myself in a second, but before I do that, I just want to say that I am nervous. I'm always nervous to record. I'm always dealing with some tightness in my chest. I'm dealing with feeling like I'm repressing my feelings. I don't feel fully expressed because that fear is there, but I am allowing it to exist, and I'm going to continue to keep recording every single day to give myself this exposure therapy because I know it's really good for me. And honestly, I find it really refreshing when I see other YouTubers just like talk real shit and just say how they feel and admit when they're nervous or admit when they're not feeling so great. It doesn't always have to be like rainbows and unicorns on the internet. And honestly, I'm sick of that shit. I want to give you guys the real me, like what's really happening inside of me. I don't want to sell you anything. Honestly, this is just for me. I'm 29 years old. I am documenting the last year of my 20s in these raw confessionals to just help me process what I'm going through, process this transition in life from youth to deeper into my personhood. I try not to use the word adulthood very much because adulthood for so many adults is childhood with more power, and we're all children. I do believe we're all children. Some of us are children who take accountability. Today I wanted to talk about something I've been avoiding talking about for a long time because I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't know what angle I wanted to approach it. But I want to talk about why I don't thirst trap anymore and why I'm not as public with my sexuality and my embodiment of my sexuality. I have so many thoughts on this. I had a video on my YouTube channel that was called I'm a Sacred Prostitute Archetype. And I basically spoke about being objectified as a child, how being objectified at such a young age shaped the way I saw myself, shaped the way I valued myself. For a lot of young Black girls, this is very common. We're adultified. And because I went through puberty rather young, having an adult looking body gave me quite a different experience from other children. I grew up in the early 2000s when there were a lot of video vixens, a lot of Nelly 50 Cent videos that I would look at and be like I would look at these women and resonate with them. Like I related to them in my 7-year-old body. I was like, that's who I am. I understood the obscene and the raw sexuality that these women were exuding. So I just resonated with these women, and I understood how to move my body. I understood what they were doing. I don't know if there's any other way to say it, but I just understood it. And I knew it wasn't for children. I knew that kind of behavior wasn't meant for me. However, that did not, I don't want to say it, that did not stop me from relating to it or resonating with it. So that in itself kind of split my personality because I understood this thing that I knew I wasn't supposed to understand. And so it became my secret. And I presented a child to the world, but I felt like I had this adult understanding within. And so that adult understanding would come out in the way I knew how to dress. This was in middle school. Like I knew how to dress my body. I knew what was flattering to my body. I knew what made my body look good. And for a child in an adult world, it made adults uncomfortable. And I'm talking about teachers, and I'm talking about probably men that were confused about how old I was, or, whatever. How can I say this in a concise way? I looked like a woman. But it's not really true, because you could see the child in me. How do I say it? I want to say my body was reminiscent of a woman's body. However, I was a child. I was a child. I inherited the objectification and the sexualization of my body because I blurred the line of child and woman earlier on in my development. And so when you're a child, you don't really have the awareness to choose perspectives. So it was a perspective that I internalized. And then that's when this whole cycle kind of began. It was like, I wanted to dress the way I wanted to dress because I had crushes for boys my age. And I wasn't like, wearing push-up bras or anything. It was just my body in tighter clothes. People might disagree and say you shouldn't be wearing tighter clothes. I was just shopping at Pretty Girl. All of that shit is spandex. And again, it wasn't like I had cleavage out or anything like that. It was just a tighter fitting thing that all these little white girls were wearing too. They were wearing camis from Abercrombie and Aeropostale and all of that shit. Everybody was wearing tight shirts. It was just because I was a black girl in a tight shirt that somehow blurred that line even more. I don't know exactly what it is, obviously, because I still haven't fully processed this with my adult mind. I'm just like going back into what I was thinking and feeling in that moment. Receiving attention from older boys and men that I knew should not be looking at me, that I was not attracted to, that I didn't want attention from. I was receiving this attention from, and I hated it. I did not want to be seen by them. I didn't like the way it felt to be looked at by them, especially when I was with my parents. It was incredibly uncomfortable. I felt like it was my fault. I felt like my body was an inconvenience, that my body most oftentimes felt like a burden. It goes white after a while. My body felt like a burden. And I started hunching over. I started making myself feel small. I started to not want attention. I started to dress differently, like dress ugly on purpose. And that kind of has become a pattern in my life. And I will look a hot mess. And I don't care. Like I will look a hot mess going to the gym. Nothing is matching, crazy different colors, hair a mess. It's just something that I've done on and off since this time in my life. So I would say there were some points in middle school where I did this. There were some points in high school when I did this. definitely in college. I had a terrible college experience. But definitely in college, I was wearing pretty much the same sweatshirt and the same sweater for the first 2 years. I was just covering my body. I gained a lot of weight. So this was a big chunk of time, 4 years, where I covered my body completely, and I was trying not to get attention. It was my way of trying to control privacy, a way of trying to control people's perception of me, by dressing that way. And then I graduated and I was out in the world on my own for the first time. And so much stress just got released. And I started to feel really good. Some of that weight started to come off. Moved to LA during COVID. I started to reclaim all of the parts of myself that I was ashamed of. I started to reclaim my sexuality, and I went hard in the other direction. And I think it was necessary for me to feel what that's like, to feel what it's like to own my body, embrace my body, not be modest, and show people what it looks like to be a woman who loves her body and to express it in the sexual way through movement, and allow that to be seen and allow that to be witnessed. This was my inner understanding of what I was doing. It felt like the power that I had been missing for a really long time. And so I was approaching it with this depth. But after this period of time passed, and I want to say it was like a couple of years of me doing this, I looked back on this through a different perspective, through a completely misogynistic, superficial, surface level, woman-hating perspective. And I regretted being public with that so much, because I felt that I degraded my own self-worth. I allowed men to use my body for use. Nobody ever touched me. It was just images. But just allowed, some deep part of me to be seen, some intimate, vulnerable part of me to be seen. And now people must think all of these sorts of things about me. I didn't have control over that narrative. I thought I was controlling the narrative. I was so deeply entrenched in my own perspective of myself that I didn't consider or even really think about what other perspectives were looking at me. And nobody ever really said anything to me. I didn't get anything negative from anybody, but I imagined the negativity, and that was enough for me to go down this deep shame spiral about being so open about it. And not only that, we're getting deep into this. I think at the very, very deepest level of a woman embracing and embodying her authentic sexuality, I think it is an expression of desire of something greater. And what I've realized now, and I guess I'm skipping a bunch of steps, right? I'm skipping a bunch of steps in the story. But now I'm realizing that who I was calling in was the man I have now. I've only really wanted just one person's attention on me. Just one special person. That's it. I don't want the masses. I don't want the public. All I've ever wanted is just one special person to receive me. His presence expands me. He is my greatest teacher. He is my greatest love. There is a level of, there's no other word to say it. It's just this level of expansion that I've always been seeking, this level of growth that he inspires in me and in my life that I've been looking for my whole life. And so my expression of my desire for what I wanted and for what he's giving me goes to him. And it's no longer this expression of desire for something I don't have, but it's this expression of desire and this dance that fuels both of us. My desire for him and for what he does for me is for him now. I don't need it from the public. It is not something I'm getting what I need. And he's getting what he needs. So what was public before is now private. So that's one part of it. That doesn't mean that I don't want to look good. That doesn't mean that I don't want to tell beautiful stories with my appearance. I'm learning to do that and be that again after moving to New York City and doing the thing that I usually do, which is nobody look at me. I don't want attention. My sexuality had been this mask for me for so long. It was something for me to hide behind. It wasn't the whole truth of who I am. I was hiding aspects of myself that felt actually more vulnerable. This sexual aspect of me had been focused on since I was 12 years old, younger than 12 years old, maybe even 11. And then in my mid-20s, I was like, okay, all of the shit that I was hiding, like I was trying to hide my sexuality, trying not to get attention, here you go. I'm going to embody all of this sexual energy and I'm going to share it and I'm going to show it and I'm going to exist and allow for that to be seen here. And I felt comfortable in that. First of all, because I was like, if I'm going to be sexualized no matter what, I might as well give people a show about it. I might as well try to flip the script, even though I wasn't really flipping the script. It was a way for me to feel like I had control, honestly. It was the illusion of control, because if I'm being sexualized trying to hide myself, I might as well be sexualized while not trying to hide myself at all. Now, I'm aware of this sexual power that I have. I know where I want to direct it. And I know how it makes other people feel. And here's the thing, when it comes to your authentic expression of yourself, you really shouldn't be taking in other people's perspectives of you. You should be allowed to be in your experience, in your perspective, and be expressing yourself from there. And if your true, authentic expression of yourself makes other people uncomfortable, that is not your problem. Ever. I do think for harm reduction purposes that when it comes to expressing yourself or expressing your sexuality, embodying your sexuality in some public way, that does attract weird fucking men. It does. It might be an expression just for one person that you want and that you like, but you're also drawing in all different kinds of people. You're going to have weird shit, in your inboxes. And that's not something that I want. You could also argue that you could be the most modest person and you're still going to have weird fucking guys in your inbox, in your DMs. So, I mean, I'm definitely not trying to come on here trying to tell women what to do. I have such a deep aversion to telling people what to do with their bodies. This is just my experience and my thoughts about it. It's fun to dress up and express yourself, express your sexuality, especially when you're single. Giving off your scent and expressing yourself to have someone pick it up and be magnetized toward you. That's an exciting process. However, having been in that process, I know that even if that whole dance and you bring someone in and then you actually look at them and I don't want it. You can't actually handle all of this. You wish you could, but you can't. And that's most often what happens at the end of the day, especially if you are very deep about your sexuality and it's not just a way for you to get that dopamine hit from posting. And that happens too. Like when you post something that you look attractive in, you get a lot of people looking at it, it gives you that high. And that's another thing that I realize is not good for me, because I end up being on my phone constantly checking how many people saw this, blah, blah, blah. And it puts me in a kind of neuroses. That's also not good for me. No, I don't want to do it. I like to be balanced. I like to be in harmony, and finding that balance is constant. That's how we learn how to find balance, is by going like this a bunch of times, and then, then you kind of find what balance feels like. So I might make a part 2 to this, because oh shit, that's 33 minutes already. Oy, this is going to be a bitch to edit. Okay. All right. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.